Okay, greetings one and all, and welcome to this math video. In this math video, we'll be considering the topic bar graphs. Yes, bar graphs. Let's begin. Okay, the question says, Farmer Brown has 100 acres of land. The bar graph below shows the number of acres used for some crops. The title of this bar graph is Crops Planted by Farmer Brown. Notice that for the y-axis, right, this is the y-axis, as the vertical axis, it's entitled number of acres, and for the x-axis, right, that's we have the type of crops. So we have beets, carrots, corn, and potatoes. Notice that for beets, right, beets accounts for 10 acres, right, of land. Notice that carrots accounts for 20 acres. And notice that corn accounts for 40 acres, right? 40 acres, right? And then notice that potatoes accounts for, potatoes accounts for 25 acres, 25 acres. And so the question says, state the number of acres used for corn. The number of acres used for corn, if we look at the diagram corn, the number of acres used for corn is definitely 40 acres. So that's the correct one. And it says, state the crop which used the least number of acres. So beets would be the crop that used the least number of acres because it's the smallest block, which only accounts for 10 acres. The rest of them are higher than beets. Then we have calculate how many more acres of potatoes were planted than beets. We know that for beets, it was 10 acres. And then for potatoes, it was what? Potatoes, it was 25 acres. If we look at it carefully, potatoes, it was 25. All right. So for beets, it was 10 acres, right? Beets, the number of acres used for beets was 10 acres, and the number of acres used for potatoes is 25. So we have to subtract 25 minus 10, which is going to be 15 acres. All right. That's the correct answer for that one. And it says, find how many acres are available for him to plant cabbage, right? So Farmer Brown wants to plant some cabbage. Find out how many acres are available for him to plant the cabbage. First, let's add up how much acres is used already. Remember, he have 100 acres of land. That's a lot of land. So, how many acres have been used up? And then whatever amount of acres have been used up, we have to subtract that from 100 acres to get how much is left. And then he could use the rest of that for the cabbage. So we have to add 10 acres, 20 acres, 40 acres, and then 25 acres. Again, 10 acres, right? For the beets, 20 acres for the carrots, right? 40 acres for the corn, and 25 acres for the potatoes. We know that 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 5 is definitely 5. And we know that 1 plus 2 is 3. 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 plus 2 is 9. So the answer is 95 acres. That's the amount of acres that has been used up already. And if we subtract 100 and 95, the answer is 5. How do we get that? Well, we can subtract like so. We know that 0 minus 5, we can't do that. So we have to borrow the neighbor, but this is also 0, so we have to go to the 1, and we borrow 1 from 1, that becomes 0. And then this number becomes 10, but we have to borrow again, so that becomes 9. And so now we have the 1 on top of the 0, which makes this one 10. So we have 10 minus 9, which is 5, and then 9 minus 9, which is a 0, and 0 minus 0 is 0. So the answer is 5. So that means that the amount of acres available for him to plant cabbage is 5 acres. Let's move on to the next question. It says, the graph below shows the results of the favorite sport of a group of grade 9 students. So the bar graph is entitled Favorite Sport of Grade 9 Students. So the sports involved are basketball, soccer, football, and baseball, 4 sports. Notice that basketball has the largest amount of students who identify basketball as their favorite sport. Then in second place comes baseball, then soccer, then football. Basketball has 50 students who declare it as their favorite sport. Soccer has 30 students who declare soccer as their favorite sport. Football, we have to be careful with football because football is in between 20 and 30. And in between 20 and 30 is 25. So there's 25 students who there are 25 students who consider football as their favorite sport. And then for baseball, we have 40 students. So we have 40 students who consider baseball as their favorite sport. So the question says, which sport is the second most popular sport? Well, the first most favorite sport or the most popular sport is basketball because it has 50 students. And the second one would be baseball because it has 40 is the second one. So baseball is the second most popular sport. How many students were surveyed altogether? Well, we have 50 for the basketball, right? 50 for basketball. And then we have 40 for soccer. No, sorry, 40 for baseball, right? 40 for baseball. And then we have 30 for soccer, 30 for soccer. If we look at it, 30 for soccer, right? And then we have 25 for football. So in between 20 and 30 is 25. And so if we add all them up, we know that 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 5 is 5. Then we know 5 plus 4 is 9. 9 plus 3 is 12. And 12 plus 2 is 14. So the answer is 145. Sun says, what is the difference between the number of students who liked basketball and football? Well, basketball accounts for 50 students, and football, 25 students said that football was their favorite sport. So 25 students, yes, 25 students right there. And so that means that we're going to subtract 50 and 25, which is going to be 25. So the answer here is 25. Okay, let's move on to the next question. It says the table shows the number of GMATs sold by a school lunch vendor in 1 week. And so here they gave us the information. And so we have days, which is Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. And the number of GMALTs sold. So you know you have Vitamalt. This one is GMALTs. So on Monday, the school sold 23 GMALTs. On Tuesday, they sold 25 GMALTs. On Wednesday, they only sold 5. On Thursday, they sold 10 GMALTs. And on Friday, they sold 14. And here they want us to draw a bar graph to show this information, putting the days on the horizontal axis. Now here, for the inside of your exam, they gave you a blank graph. What I did here was I filled out this blank graph using the information that was given inside of the question. And so what you have to do is you have to make sure on your horizontal axis, you have the days. So label it days. And then you have Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. Okay, that's on your horizontal axis. Now for Monday, they said that Monday is 23. And then for your y-axis, you want to make sure label that number of GMALTs. And we're going to go from 1 all the way up to 25. All right, so you have to construct your own graph. Now, for Monday, we know that Monday accounts for what? 23, so we got to go all the way up to 23. For Tuesday, we know that account for 25, so that's all the way up to 25. For Wednesday, we have to do only 5, right? And then for Thursday, we know that they only sold 10. Sorry, Thursday is 10 or 11. Thursday is 10. This is not right. Thursday is 10. So let's correct that. Thursday is supposed to be 10. I have 11 now. So I will correct that and then I'll come back to the video. So let's correct that first. Okay, I'm back. Notice that Thursday has 10, right? Thursday has 10, not 11. Thursday has 10. They sold 10 GMALTs on Thursday. And on Friday they sold 14. 14 GMALTs on Friday. So Monday, 23 GMALTs. Tuesday, 25. Wednesday, 5. All right. Thursday, it's going to be 10 GMALTs. 10, 10. All right. And then on Friday, it's going to be 14. So our bar graph is correct now. And so now the question is, and that's whole 7 points. So please be careful and make sure that your bar graph is expressed on the diagram properly. The next question is how many GMALTs in total were sold that week? So we have to add 23 plus 25 plus 5 plus 10 plus 14. We know that 5 plus 3 is 8. And then 8 plus 5, that's going to be 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And 13 plus 4 is definitely 17. Put the 7 down, put the 1 up. 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus, again, 2 plus 1 is 3. 3 plus 2 is 5. 5 plus 1 is 6. 6 plus 1 is 7. So the answer is 77. So that means that there were 77 Gmalts sold that week. Moving on to the next question, it says 40 students were asked how many books they read during the holidays. The responses are shown on the table below. So number of books read and the frequency. So we have 4 people who read 1 book. We have 9 persons who read 2 books. We have 5 persons who read 3 books. We have 15 persons who read 4 books, and then we have 7 persons who read 5 books. It says use a scale of 2 centimeters equal 1 unit on the x-axis, that would be the number of books, and 1 centimeter equals to 1 unit on the y-axis, that would be frequency, to represent the responses on a vertical bar graph. All right, so the graph has to be vertical, that means it's going to go up and down. State, and then the next question is state the modal number of books read. So they say 2 centimeters to 1 unit on the x-axis. That means that this is 1, 2 units. So that means that would be 1. All right. And then it's going to be 1, 2, which is going to be 2. And it's going to be 1, 2, which is going to be 3. And going to be 1, 2, which is going to be 4. And then 1, 2, which is going to be 5. And then 1, 2 is going to be 6. So for each 2 blocks, right? Every time you pass 2 blocks, that's going to be 1 unit. So from this block to this block, that's 1 unit. And then from that block to that block, that's 1 unit. So every time you pass 2 blocks, then you denote 1 unit, all right? And so for when they say 1 centimeter to 1 unit, that means that each block is a unit. So 1 block is 1 unit, 1 block is 1 unit, 1 block is 1 unit, 1 block is 1 unit. But if they say 2 centimeter to 1 unit, that means that we would have 2 blocks. So 1, 2, then that would be our first one, right? So we do 2 blocks and then and then we denote a unit. So just like this. So this is 1 block, and then this is another block. And so then we have our unit. Then we have 1 block, then another block, and then we have our unit. Then we have a next block, then the next block, and then we have our unit. So it's 2 centimeters to 1 unit, all right? And so we number it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. It's going to be the number of books. The frequency is here. They say that frequency is on the y-axis and number of books is on the x. So how many persons read 1 book? 4 persons, indeed 4 persons. How many persons read 2 books? Well, 9 persons read 2 books. 9 persons. How many persons read 3 books? How many persons read 3 books? Well, 5 persons read 3 books, just like our graph states. How many persons read 4 books? There's 4. 15 persons read 4 books. So that's gonna be here. 15 persons, and then how many persons read 7? Sorry, how many persons read 5 books? Well, it's going to be here. 7 persons read 5 books. And so this is the completed vertical bar graph. And that's how you have to draw it when you're doing it your exam. And that accounts for 7 points. So make sure to do it properly. State the modal number of books read. That's going to be the modal number of books read is going to be, did I answer that? The modal number of books read. No, I didn't answer it. But when we say the modal number of books read, so what number had the highest number of frequency? Well, it's obvious from the graph that that would be 4, right? So the modal number of books read, most persons read 4 books, right? Most persons read 4 books. The modal number of books read is 4 because that's the frequency is 15. So 15 persons read 4 books, whereas only 4 people read 1 book, and only 9 persons read 2 books, and only 5 persons read 3 books, and only 7 persons read 5 books, but 15 persons read 4 books. So the modal number of books read is definitely going to be 4 books. Okay, let's move on to the next question. It says, it's entitled CDs sold during January. CDs sold during January or January. We know that on week 1. So the weeks is going to be on the x-axis. That's where the weeks are. And the amount sold is going to be on the y-axis. So for week 1, we know that 100 CDs were sold. For week 2, well, we know this number is between 40 and 60, so it's going to be 50. So 50 CDs were sold. And then for week 3, we have 80, so that means that 80 CDs were sold. And then for week 4, we have 40. That means that 40 CDs were sold in week 4. In which week was the largest number of CDs sold? The answer is definitely week 1, because week 1 has 100 CDs, 100 CDs that were sold, and no other week had that amount, right? Everything was just less than 100. In which week was the least number of CDs sold? That's going to be the lowest one, and that's definitely going to be in week 4 because it has the smallest bar. It only had 40 persons 40 CDs sold during that week. Then we have how many more CDs were sold in week 3 than in week 2? Well, in week 3, we know that there were 80 CDs sold, right? 80 CDs sold. And then in week 2, there were 50 CDs sold because this bar is in between 40 and 50. And if we want to go directly between 40 and 50, 40 and 60, that's going to be 50, because you have 40, then 50, then 60. So definitely, even though they don't label it, this number is 50. And so we have 80 minus 50, which is going to be 30. So 30 more CDs were sold in week 3 than in week 2. Okay, let's move on to the next question. Here we have on the x-axis we have the pets, right? On the x-axis we have the pets, and on the y-axis we have the number of children. So the pets that we have are dogs, birds, fish, and hamsters. That's the pets that we have. And on the y-axis we have the number of children. So it says the graph shows a survey of students of Aunt Sue preschool to determine which pet they owned. Use this graph to answer the questions which follow. A, how many students owned a bird? Well, we can see from the diagram that 40 students, right? 40 students owned a bird, right? So the answer here is going to be 40 students. How many more students own how many more students own dogs than own fish? Well, we first have to figure out how many students own dogs. Well, the number of students that own a dog is 30, right? And the number of students that own a fish, well, that is simply 10, all right? So 10. So we have to subtract 30 and 10. So 30 minus 10 is definitely 20. So the answer is 20. Number 6 says, write the ratio of birds to hamsters in lowest terms. Again, write the ratio of birds to hamsters in lowest terms. And so what we have to do is we have to write the ratio of birds to hamsters in lowest terms. So we have, how many did we have for birds? For birds, we had 40, right? 40. So we're going to put 40 here. And then they say ratio of birds to hamsters. Then for hamsters, we had what? Hamsters, we had 20. So this is going to be 20, right? 20. And so what we have here is 40 to 20. That's the ratio. But we could cancel the zero. So this 0 cancel with that 0. So we're left with 4 to 2. And then what's the ratio of 4 to 2 in simplest form? Well, we have to divide 4 by 2, and we have to divide 2 by 2. 4 divided by 2 is 2, and 2 divided by 2 is 1. And so that means that the ratio of birds to hamsters in lowest terms is 2 to 1. Next, they say how many students took part in the survey? Well, we have to add it, right? So 30 students, that is for the dogs. So 30 students would be for the dogs. And then 40 students will be for the birds. So 40 students would be for the birds, right? And then 10 students would be for the fish. That's 10 students for the fish. And then for hamsters, it's going to be 20 students. So 20 students for the hamsters. And so that means we have 30, 40, 10, and 20. So we have 0 plus 0 plus 0 plus 0, which is going to be 0. 3 plus 4, that's going to be 7. 7 plus 1 is 8. And then 8 plus 2 is 10. So the answer here is 100 students took part in the survey. Okay, that brings us to the end of this video. Thank you for watching this video, and I'll see you in the next video.